CFAX 1070.
Good morning, thanks for staying with us. Frank Stanton will be with you at 10:30 this morning. Right now we're continuing with our All Candidates Forum here, live in our CFAX 1070 in the CTV News studios at Broad and Pandora. If you would like to join the conversation this morning, the phone number to dial 250-386-1161 star 1070. Just a reminder, the candidates that are here today, Dale Gann from the Conservative Party, Donald Galloway from the Greens, Philip May from the Christian Heritage Party, Murray Rankin from the New Democrats, and Paul Somerville from the Liberals. The candidate is not present with us, that is still running, who is sick today, couldn't join us as part of from the Libertarian Party. Before the break, I ask you to select a question that you can ask of any other candidate. We're going to start this session with Donald Galloway from the Greens. Donald, who's your question for?
I have a question for Murray Rankin, and the question is this. What would you do if your party leader, a strong disciplinarian, required you to vote in a way that you believed was counter to the interests of your representatives, your constituents in Victoria?
The premise of the question is that I would be voting against the interests of my constituents in Victoria were I successful in this campaign. I would not vote against the interests of my constituents. I accept that party discipline is part of our parliamentary process, part of our traditions as Canadians. However, I believe that it's important that I represent the interests of Victoria and stand up for Victoria in Ottawa.
Let me ask a follow-up question on that. I'm going to try and do that. Let's say you put into really a kind of a very tough situation. It's either voting to keep your party in power or voting with your interests of your constituents. Which way would you go?
If I have listened to the people of Victoria, consulted widely, and if the premise of your question is that they all are opposed to the position that I would be required to take, I would have to resign, or I would have to take steps to address that. In other words, I would want to listen first to ensure that there really was that conflict that you've talked about.
Okay, now we're going to go to Paul Somerville. Your question, and who is it for?
This by-election isn't going to change our Prime Minister or Parliament, but it's become a referendum on the sewage issue because it's so important. So this is a question from Murray Rankin. About a month ago, on Stephen Andrews' show, along with Don Galloway, you were asked about the terrible tax impact for families and businesses here in Victoria, and you responded by saying it wasn't your problem. Are you prepared to apologize to the people of Victoria for what is probably a heartless comment?
I apologize if that were the quote accurately perceived. I suspect it was taken out of context, but look, let me tell you my position. I want this to be the most cost-effective plan possible. It is not the federal government's plan. I'm seeking federal office. It's the plan of a regional district trying to comply with provincial and then federal laws. I will work hard to make it the most cost-effective and environmentally acceptable plan possible.
Murray, you can't hide behind legal mumbo-jumbo. If you go to my website, we have it clearly there where you say it's not my problem, period.
Okay. Is it possible you said that, Murray?
I probably did, but if so, it was out of context. Of course, everything is the federal government's problem ultimately, but listen, this plan is a plan that is in response to a federal and, of course, initially a BC Liberal government requirement. That still is the law. I'm sorry if I'm not apologizing for being a lawyer. Those are the legal facts of life.
The reality is that you had the chance to sympathize with the businesses and people in Victoria who are going to be so harmed by the sewage tax increase, and what you said was it wasn't your problem. I even gave you a chance a couple weeks later when I mentioned to you on air that I thought that under Tom Mulcair's leadership that the NDP had lost its soul.
If I could just quickly wrap this up, guys, because we want to get other people in.
This is a chance to apologize.
Last comment to Murray Rankin.
I am so pleased that the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Victoria have joined with environmental organizations to stand up and say we need secondary treatment.
Let's go to Philip May. Philip, who's your question for?
I'd like to ask all my fellow candidates.
You get to ask one candidate.
So I'll ask her. All right. Do you support?
Easy boy today, Murray. Go ahead.
He's a good guy. Do you support the UN document Agenda 21 and the use of abortion to create this depopulation and globalization?
I will need to know a lot more about United Nations documents, but I can tell you that our party has proudly been pro-choice from the get-go and stood up recently unanimously, contrary to other parties, against Rona Ambrose's position on that.
In spite of what science says.
Okay, let's go to Dale Gann. Your question, who's it for?
This question is from Murray Rankin.
It seems that Murray is the one to knock off today.
Well, I've listened to this radio station for a long time as a kid that grew up here, and for the last 10 years, I've wondered what the economic priority, what the economic plan of the NDP government is. I think it's the most important. I think Victoria has a chance to elect a member to the table of the sitting government, and I'd like to know, Murray,
Yes.
what your plan is, what your party's plan is to
That's one
strengthen
minute.
our economy.
Is this 1 minute question? Well, let me just say that I was a managing partner of a very successful small business, a law firm in this community for over a dozen years. A job plan is not like Christy Clark's job plan, which is spin and political advertising. A job plan is standing up and ensuring that we have a value-added economy, and not inciting temporary foreign workers, but rather finding jobs for Canadians, not shipping our jobs to Asia via a pipeline that your party supports.
Can I ask you a follow-on question? Then why is it that your leader opposed a $3,000 tax credit for a small business to hire a new hire when they're trying to create more revenue out there in the streets? It's not acceptable.
I'm all for looking constructively at tax incentives. I mentioned the capital gains rollover as one that your party did not support, despite Denise Savoy and the real estate board being in favor.
Well, hang on,
That very step would make a great difference in this local
But
economy.
you've just been, Murray, you've just been asked a question, you've done just the political thing.
That's right.
Dale, I'll ask you a question again, and this time we're gonna get an answer.
The question?
Simply put, what is the NDP's job plan to strengthen Canada's economy and Victoria's?
2% tax cut for small business. That has been one of the main planks in the last campaign, and I stand by that.
Murray Rankin, you get to ask a question.
Well, I'll ask Mr. Gandon. And as you know, Mr. Gann, the Conservatives' omnibus budget bill repealed the Canadian Environmental Assessment Act and replaced it by a much weaker statute. How does this relate to the pipeline projects in British Columbia?
Well, I'm going to say that what I know about what they've done is they've tried to streamline it, and if you use the word streamline it, everybody all of a sudden gets concerned and says we're not doing it thoroughly. What I know is I've watched business and engineering firms try to bring projects to increase and do things in a responsible way, but the prior process was so encumbered, so lengthy, that it took so long for us to get a darn project done that it stymied production of jobs and ultimate projects.
I need to take a break. When we come back, my tough questions for each of these candidates. So you're going to want to hear them and their answers and see if they're going to buckle under the pressure when we continue here on CFAX 10 seconds.
Buckle under pressure like Andrew's.
It's the more points event at Save on Foods. $200. And you earn 5,000 more rewards points for the class. Use your more rewards MasterCard card and earn even more points. That means more points, more destinations, and more free rewards for the whole family. Get your points today at morerewards.ca. Join us for the more points event on now. Save on Foods. Since 1915. If upgrading your garage door is on your list of home improvement projects, it's time to get started. Harbor Door is making it easy to improve the curb appeal of your home during the Chlorine Savings Event. For a limited time, replace your old garage door with a beautiful, new energy-efficient model and receive up to $125 off select Chlorine garage doors. And team it up with a new Master garage door opener and receive an outside keypad free. Visit the Harbor Door showroom at 210 Mary Street, celebrating over 25 years in business. If you have trees, shrubs, or soil, then you need the expertise of Carlo
Last spot before the intro is
Venture out into your yards and gardens over the next few months, the results of pest and disease damage become apparent. Before you see the damage, it is advisable to have an arborist.
I'll ask you the next one.
you can go to John, just try to get these things very, very tight, try to get to this call, and you know,
How Bell makes Black Friday better.
Dave from Vaughan asks, I heard Bell having a Black Friday sale tonight. Well, Dave, it's so big, it's not just Black Friday. It's Black Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Just visit a Bell store this weekend, and a Black Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday super phone deal can be yours. Say that 10 times fast.
Save on Samsung and Motorola Superphones November 23rd to 26th. Visit a Bell store for details. Bell, saving just got better.
In a little town in Wisconsin, Linda Boyd and Tim his grandmother trapped in a faraway land, and he was doing everything he could to help them find their way back.
I know reading about heroes. What do you think?
But like every other fairy tale, there's always a villain.
They have a werewolf. Someone in their way. They need your help.
It's not your average storybook ending. Like the episode of CTV's Once Upon a Time, Sunday at 7.
Okay, here we go, guys. We're into a show right now.
On CFAX 1070.
Welcome back to the program. I'm going to make sure that we get one quick call in for the 5 candidates that are here in our studio. We're going to do that right now. I'm going to go to John in Victoria. John, good morning. Welcome to CFAX 1070. Very quickly, sir, your question for our candidates.
Okay, here's the question. Canada's economy seems to be doing quite well throughout the world, yet Europe's economy is falling apart. What has happened to Europe? What is their problem?
Okay, well, I'll give you each about maybe 10 seconds on that. Dale Gann?
It's very, sorry.
Dale, changing your name, Paul. Let's go to Dale Gann.
Well, I think, listen, you're right, sir, and thank you for the call. Canada's economy is doing well, and obviously we've just watched the International Monetary Fund chief just say it's a model financially for the world. I think we have to recognize that and be proud of that. We live in a global economy, and it's a tough economy. We need to steward it very well.
Paul Somerville from the Liberals.
It's very simple. The Europeans have built a monetary and fiscal program that don't work, and they've backed themselves into disaster.
Let's go to Donald Gallery from the Green Party.
The amount of personal debt that has been incurred by individuals in Europe is beyond the means of the countries to look after.
Let's go to Philip Ney from the Christian Heritage Party. A question obviously on why is Europe's economy failing when Canada's economy seems to be booming.
The Prime Minister of Hungary went on record to say Europe must return to Christianity before economic regeneration is possible.
And finally, Murray Rankin.
I think it's grounded as well in the failure to agree on stimulus programs and having a great dissension at the EU level on what exactly should be done.
Okay, tough questions for you now, very briefly, and I need each of you to really get tough on this. We'll go to Paul Somerville. Your Achilles heel, a couple of days.
I'm a very private person, and this is a very, very public profession. And I think by being very private, there are times when I want to say what I think, and I'm going to have to learn to think about it more carefully.
Philip Ney, your Achilles heel in this campaign.
I'm sorry.
Your Achilles heel, your weakness in this campaign.
Oh, my Achilles heel. I have taken very consciously a different and, in some areas, unpopular, but it is still strongly scientific. I'm a scientist. I publish scientific papers. People don't want to talk about abortion, but it's underlying all sorts of problems.
We'll get to that in a minute. Murray Rankin?
I think I have a lot of faults for sure, but my following on in the footsteps of someone as popular as Denise Savoy and having big hard act to follow is something I hear about all the time on the doorsteps.
That's your Achilles heel.
Well, I just say that.
What you're saying is you can't measure up to Denise Savoy.
I worry about that perception for sure, and I'm also obviously worried about the toll on personal life in a job like this.
It's tough. I can tell you that. I watch it on the other side. Dale Gann?
I guess, I'm an individual that has been self-taught and learned, and I realize that this is a very important job to represent our community, and you need to be able to be very effective at listening and learning and leading.
And is that your Achilles heel?
No, it's not my Achilles heel, but it's incredibly important. My Achilles heel that I'm probably representing a government, a standing government, and throughout this whole election, it's been blame the government and versus look at Victoria and my ability to help our economy.
So the government, your Achilles heel is your government, your party.
When you're in an elected government, it's a.
Is that a yes? Is that a yes? Your Achilles heel is the government. Is that yes?
Compared to my candidates, yes.
Okay. I love it when people say yes and not actually give me an answer. Let's go to Donald Gallery.
I've committed myself to a high road campaign that is based upon principles. I'm finding that there is information out there that is based upon scare tactics rather than faith.
But is that your Achilles heel?
Well, I think that the Achilles heel is that we know that in election campaigns, negative tactics can work. I'm refusing to go that direction.
But Donald, you're the one where you had the false endorsement by David Suzuki on raw materials.
Pardon?
David Suzuki was falsely identified as an endorser on your materials. It came out as a front page column in the Times Colonist. You've been doing the High Road campaign, and yet you're the one who's falsely used one of Canada's icons to support your party.
I have had David Suzuki's support at stated support at a rally in which he described me as a dedicated individual, that the Green Party was lucky to have me as their candidate. He went out of his way to state that he supported me.
Donald,
So what has the Times Colonist got it wrong? Has David Suzuki changed his mind since
I
then?
think that there is an issue about David Suzuki having a concern about the use of the term endorsement as opposed to the use of the term support. David Suzuki made some
So
very
he
clear...
doesn't endorse you, but he supports
But he
you. Is that what you're
supports me.
saying?
That, I think, is my position. And I didn't pick up in early dealings with him that he actually drew this distinction. You endorse a project, you support a person.
Okay.
David Suzuki clearly comes out, and it's on YouTube. You can hear the things that he says about me as a candidate. He clearly states.
Let's go. You want to talk about abortion, okay? Let's do it. I understand that you are not pro-choice. Is that true?
That's not true. You can't stop people choosing, that's ridiculous. They can choose and I can't stop them, that's not the point. The point is that the vast majority of Canadians don't support abortion on demand, and yet they have to pay taxes for a bad medical procedure. You want to look at the science? University.
So would you stop, if you were elected and your party, the Christian Heritage Party, became government, would they stop abortion?
Don't be silly. I mean, what you
I'm
do...
not being silly, I'm asking you a question, sir.
I'm going to ask you a question, if you'd be quiet. I am for the practice of good medicine. If it's good for women, I support it. And if it's a good and necessary abortion, I'll do it myself. But the findings are very clear. Abortion interferes with the development of subsequent children. They have low birth weights and subsequent...
Let me ask you a direct question then, Philip. If a woman became pregnant, and decided for no other reason that she really did not want to carry the child to term, should that be allowed?
I'm a doctor. What do I say if somebody says, I want to cut my arm off? I say, it's not good for you. I'm not going to do that. It's ridiculous. There's nothing necessary about having, and when we do a study on wanting babies, it increases during the pregnancy. Do you know that? So
I'm obviously not going to get a straight answer to my question. Paul Somerville, women's right to choose.
100% support.
Bergeron, you've already said that you support
100% support.
Again?
It's a personal issue, and your example of a mother getting in that situation, that's a personal issue, and I wouldn't want to see someone have to be forced to have that baby.
But you would take no steps to make it illegal?
I would take this first step as your elected MP to talk to the citizens and ask what they want to do.
It's pretty clear, Dale, that most women support the right over their own bodies, for goodness sakes.
Not as much as men.
Yeah. No answer to that, Dale?
No, maybe my point.
Okay, all right.
100%.
100%. Okay, I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to make a statement.
They're going to be different.
Okay, 30 seconds. So we'll start with Paul Somerville, and I'll just let you know when you got 10 seconds to wrap up. Okay, Paul? 30 seconds.
Thank you, Victoria, for having the chance to speak to you. This by-election is not going to change a prime minister, and it's not going to change Parliament. It's become a referendum on a wasteful sewage treatment plant, and it's very simple. A vote for Paul Somerville is a vote to stop the billion-dollar boondoggle, and a vote for Murray Rankin is for it to continue. With the terrible tax increases, that will push business and people out of our city.
Thank you, Paul Somerville, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. We are now going to move on to Murray Rankin, who is representing the New Democrats. 30 seconds for you.
The government of Canada is led by Stephen Harper. His values are not our values. I do not believe that fighter jets over $20 billion, cuts of $36 billion to Medicare, denying climate change action, or gutting our environmental legislation are our values. I want to represent Victoria in Ottawa, not the other way around, and stand up to him every day in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Murray Rankin. Just so you know, when I give you the signal, you have 10 seconds left. Brian Rankin from the NDP. Now we go to Philip Name for the Christian Heritage Party. You have 30 seconds.
A wise man said, listen most carefully for what you do not want to hear. And I say to my people, my friends in Victoria, truly, you know me. I have stood up for unpopular things all since I was an elected position in the school board. I've done that, and I've done very unpopular things, but they are scientific and they're pragmatic. Listen to what medical science has to say and what economics has to say. We cannot run a free market economy on a declining population. That's it. More taxes. All my friends are for more taxes.
Thank you.
It will not work.
Philip Name from the Christian Heritage. Now we go to Donald Galloway from the Green Party. Donald, 30 seconds.
I would like the opportunity to work alongside the most effective, most popular politician and political leader in Canada, the one who took the lead dealing with the omnibus budget bills and the China-Canada investment agreement. I am asking the people of Victoria to be bold, to have faith, because on November the 27th, there will be joy in your heart if you vote for Greens.
Thank you, Donald Galloway. And our final candidate here in the studio is Dale Gann from the Conservatives. Dale, you have 30 seconds starting now.
An election is not about a day, it's about a future. I have demonstrated that I'm a champion for this community. I have discussed throughout my campaign the opportunities, not just the issues, how to strengthen our economy and how to work with our government. We may not always agree with them, but we must learn to work with governments. I am the best representative for this job. I have put a lot of thought in this, and I have a proven track record. I look forward to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, all candidates. We are out of time, but I do appreciate it. Vote on Monday, 7 to 7.
I made the best fellow win.
CFAX.
Candidates, I need to ask you one quick question for television before you
That rain ending by noon, windy and cloudy this afternoon. Good morning, I'm James Garner. Two leading business organizations in the capital region are funding their support in sewage treatment, plus Victoria, the Victoria Chamber